Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Brant Fowler and I'm ready to talk to you about only good comics. Now let's hit that intro. This time we're going to talk about Daredevil, Volume 1 by Mark Waid with art by Paulo Rivera and Marcos Martin from 2011. Now before we get into today's video, if you do enjoy the content on this channel, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video going up on Only Good Comics. And give us a thumbs up because it really does help the channel out. And you can follow me across social media at Only Good Comics. Now, let's get back to today's video. So before we get into the book, I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season, got to do whatever you wanted to do and spend some time with your loved ones. I did, had a fantastic time with my family, so it was a great time had by all, and I'm blessed this year. So hopefully you are as well. But let's get into Daredevil, Volume 1 by Mark Waid and a plethora of artists. Eventually Chris Samnee would become synonymous with this volume of Daredevil, but in this particular volume, the artists were Paulo Rivera and Marcos Martin. I believe Paulo Rivera did, he did issues 1 through 3, and Marcos Martin did issues 4 through 6. This trade collects the first 6 issues of the series that Mark Waid was writing at the time, and it also includes some cool back matter, like some sketches and some interior art pages and really cool stuff. And I'm actually fortunate enough to have a signed copy by Mark Waid, so that's cool. I actually won this at a comic convention. It was like a raffle kind of thing, and I was a creator. I was set up there, but I happened to enter this raffle, and it was for a good cause. I don't remember the cause, but yeah, I won this and couldn't be happier about it. So anyway, let's get into this though. I was never a huge Daredevil fan. I read Daredevil here and there throughout the years, tried it, and it was, I don't know, it just wasn't my thing. I couldn't get into the character for whatever reason at the time, but when Mark Waid took over the book, I had been a fan of Mark Waid's from other stuff, including CrossGen and other things that he had written that I really enjoyed. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try this out and see what this is like. I had read the previous volume of Daredevil even, and I don't know, the previous volume was the whole Shadowland War and all of that stuff going on, and there was a disconnect for me with that particular story. But with Mark Waid's version, the game completely changed for Matt Murdock and his entire supporting cast. In this volume, it started off a new era for Daredevil that was still rooted in everything that came before and still feeling repercussions of everything that had just happened. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But also it took it in a completely different direction with a lighter tone in both the art style and the storytelling to a degree. Now there were, like I said, there were serious parts of the story that were still very dark and rooted in Hell's Kitchen and dealing with, Matt's inner demons and his battles with, the crime population of New York. But at the same time, he kind of had a new lease on life, and he was kind of taking it in a different way. This book also did something different with the way that we perceived Daredevil's abilities and the way that these artists throughout this series were able to visualize the effects of Daredevil's kind of his sonar radar kind of vibe. And there's like one example of it. We got to see kind of how he sees the world through Mark Waid's eyes and through Rivera, Martin, and Sandy's eyes as well, in the depiction of this kind of, don't even know what you would call that. It's not really a negative, but it's just kind of this outline thing where he could see shapes, but everything was kind of in a grid format, and that's kind of how he would visualize this. We all know that he doesn't really see, but he does kind of see. It's like this extrasensory perception that he has, and this was a very unique way to visualize that for this new era. But as we start off, Daredevil, this is the very first page, and it's kind of taken us step by step as he's listening to heartbeats and all this stuff, and he decides that a mob wedding is the perfect time to crash and start a fight. And another cool thing that Mark Waid did was a trend that we've seen more and more over the past decade is taking these B, C, and D level characters like Spot and elevating them to where he was actually a challenging foe, not impossible, not like top level, but a challenging foe for Daredevil in this first little scene in these first few pages. And as we would see going forward, Spot would become more and more formidable, not just in this book, but in other places as well. And the lighter, I'm trying to find a really good page that kind of illustrates the lighter tone, because I'm getting into some of the darker stuff that I wanted to show. But like, yeah, you see the bright colors and the smile on Matt's face, and how he's got, like I said, this new lease on life, and he's just kind of enjoying the world. There's a big double page spread where you see him and Foggy kind of walking around town as they talk and catch up. But the dark undertones of this bright, happy time is that Foggy thinks that Matt's sanity is being lost. You know, he just went through this thing where he was possessed in Shadowland and leading the Hand, which was this organization that he's fought forever, and kind of went to this dark demonic side of himself, and being someone that believes in God and believes he's called by God to save the city, that could break somebody of his stature and everything that he's been through. So Foggy is worried that this flip, and where he's happy and happy-go-lucky and all this stuff, could be a sign that he's just kind of losing it, and he's very concerned about his very good friend. Meanwhile, at the same time, talking about those darker moments within this story, because of everything that happened in Shadowland, I think it's the second issue I'm trying to get to, a really good page to show you guys. Yeah, Captain America has vowed to take Daredevil in and make him pay for his crimes. So the contrast of those bright fun times is when he gets in these battles at night, the coloring just kind of pops out that darkness and that grittiness that's still there, even in this bright world that Matt Murdock finds himself in now. There's a good scene, I don't know if it's in this volume or not, but there's a really cool scene where we do see Matt kind of looking forward and kind of tracing his steps, and it's like these dotted lines that go through it. Just some really creative panel work and really creative storytelling visually and through the narrative in this entire run of Daredevil, and some really cool action shots like that. But again, it's kind of an exploration of Matt kind of regaining himself and kind of entering this new chapter of his life. There's another blind person, a younger person that he comes into contact with that is involved in a story arc that he kind of takes under his wing and kind of makes him his mentee, and that character throughout this run kind of grows and becomes this whole other being that has learned that has sat under the learning tree of Matt Murdock, and kind of he gets involved in other aspects of this underworld, and it's a really interesting character journey for him, and for all these characters in here. This is a very much character forward book, which does lead to some more deliberate storytelling. So if that's not your thing, be aware of that. But the pacing of this particular book, I think Mark Waid handled it really well, and it was really fitting for the story that he was telling. There's another one of those kind of darker scenes, but with these bright colors, kind of, it's just a beautiful contrast, like I said, telling this story. So you see all the familiar elements that Daredevil deals with. He's fighting mob bosses and crime lords and that kind of thing. He's got other superheroes that he's either fighting against, or in the case of, there's a point in time in this run that he teams up with the Punisher, and Black Cat gets involved, and all these other kinds of characters that are kind of in that gray area as well, kind of still float in and out of the storytelling in this book. But if you are looking for something different, something unique, and a fresh take on a character, and a great jumping on point, this is a really good story. It's nothing like Chip Zdarsky's run on the current Daredevil series, which is also fantastic, but it's a completely different vibe. So that happens obviously a decade after this story takes place, and Daredevil has gone through a bunch of dark stuff between this point and that point that kind of sent him on a completely different path. And now he's forming this the fist to combat the hand, so he's kind of gone back to that. But this was this intermediary period where he was again finding himself and reinventing himself, and then eventually getting broken down again to the point to where he had to grow again. So it's a constant breaking down and building back up for Daredevil, and this was a building up phase in the Daredevil legacy. And Mark Waid and all the artists involved in this book did a phenomenal job of telling that story, introducing new characters, growing them, and taking us on a beautiful, fun, light, but still serious and important journey. And this is the starting point. Volume 1 of Mark Waid's run of Daredevil. Go check it out because it is really good. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos where I talk about cool books like Daredevil Volume 1. And you can follow me across social media at Only Good Comics, and join me next time as I talk to you about only good comics. Take care. Bye.